My electricity supplier is Octopus, and I get a really cheap overnight rate of 7p. And I can guarantee that Octopus is not being generous and losing money just to help me run my EV really cheaply. What is going on behind the scenes with our charge point operators that run our public EV charging? I'm Dave. This is Dave Takes It On. Overnight, the price of electricity drops as we generally produce more than we use. E.ON now has fixed rate tariffs that automatically give you cheaper overnight electricity, with unit prices hovering around 10, 11, 12 pence per kilowatt hour. Octopus also offers spot deals at cheaper times during the day on occasions when we're producing far more electricity than we use, like on windy and sunny days. In some cases, they will be buying this electricity much cheaper, sometimes free, while on other occasions, they actually will get paid for taking excess electricity so that the grid doesn't have to shut down a wind farm. Why don't we EV drivers ever see any of this back in the prices that we have to pay? Is this just the financial reality of CPOs being funded by green funds and investment funds, commercial banks that demand a high return? Are we being ripped off to give them their profit? Are we being ripped off with our highest in Europe electricity prices? There are some yes answers coming, so keep watching. And if you want to see more like this, please subscribe to the channel. It is free. Now, we need just a touch of history about electricity production because they're the ones who set the price of electricity that we and they use. We use to run our homes and charge our EVs. Don't worry, this will be really simplified for easier understanding. The actual details amazingly complex. Well, we have a privatized electricity generation chain. We have a privatized national grid and a government-run regulator, Ofgem, supposed to protect the users. That's us. I say supposed because they should protect us. They don't. Well, successive governments going back decades have tried to ensure a continuous supply of electricity from the generators. These are the people who make the electricity. So we get no blackouts. To do this, they chose to equalize the generators. They subsidize the price generators get, how much they get paid, to ensure that no one fuel type is cheaper. And that gives us a major problem because all the different generators have different production costs. Wind, for example, is totally free to generate. The government has not yet found a way to tax wind or sunlight. I'm sure they're working on that. See, once you have your wind turbine, it produces electricity totally free of charge. Just wind. You do have maintenance, you have repairs, you have replacements, and you do need to make a profit. But your fuel cost is free. It's zero. Wind is free. Gas-powered generators, meanwhile, are not free. Every single watt of electricity requires someone to buy a unit of gas from our massive petrochemical industry. Their electricity production costs are high. They also have repairs, maintenance and profit and everything else, but their cost of producing electricity is very high. So our government way back in the past thought, hey, if gas-powered generators cost a lot to produce electricity, they're never going to sell any if the wind farms are producing virtually free electricity. Everyone's just going to choose wind, not gas. And that will be a problem if one day the wind doesn't blow. We really do need gas as well. So a method of balancing the financial equation was needed. Now, in some countries, this was done by way of something called peaker plants. They have a number of power stations, always at the ready, but not normally needed for day-to-day requirements. They are part of the generation chain, but mostly they're held in standby. However, when they are needed, they get paid a massive, obscene price for their electricity for the short period of time they need to run. They thus remain profitable, highly profitable, despite sitting idle for most of each and every day. Australia, some states in America use a similar system, and their peaker power plants are or were mostly coal-fired. Some were oil and gas, but most were coal because they have plenty of coal and it was cheap. I'm going to come back to that cheap price later, because coal, oil and gas peaker plants are now rapidly being replaced by something completely different. Our government decided it would be simpler to operate a system of subsidies and price fixing. Whoa, what a surprise. They would subsidise the price of generating electricity to be the same no matter who or what generated it. Expensive generators, gas, biomass, both of which have to buy in expensive fuel, got loads of money. The gas or biomass needed to be burned. That would be subsidised to whatever level was needed to enable them to make an equal profit from generating electricity that the free fuel generators made. So in simple terms, we subsidise the world's largest gas producing petrochemical companies to allow them to sell the gas to gas-powered generators, to allow them to make a profit, and it gives sweet FA to wind and solar and nuclear and hydro, who have zero fuel costs and make cheap electricity. Oh, but hold on, because I'm sure you've spotted a big problem, because I certainly have. Ofgem is responsible for setting this artificially high fixed price per unit of electricity. See what I mean about not working to protect us? They set the price, not the market. But that still left a problem. Renewable energy generators still make really cheap electricity, and everybody would still choose that. So the government, through Ofgem, simply forced the renewable generators to sell their really cheap, virtually free electricity at the same price as the expensive electricity generated by gas turbines. Hang on. Let me look at that again. If you can produce free electricity from wind or solar or hydro, then you have to sell it at the same high price as the gas generated by electricity. But surely that would be raking in an absolute fortune. It does. Does everybody now begin to understand why these massive wind farms, solar farms are being installed absolutely everywhere? Hang on another minute, I've just had another terrible thought. We subsidise the gas electricity generators, so they will keep buying gas from the oil giants, and we force the renewable generators to sell electricity so their price is the same as the gas generators. We therefore are effectively paying both sides, but not for the electricity they produce. We're paying both sides to produce a profit so that neither one is favoured. Put it another way, and we're paying both sides so that both sides win. This is crazy. But of course, you know what's next. Who pays those subsidies to both sides? Yeah, it's us mugs. The government has long ago stopped paying these themselves. They did that about 25 years ago when they introduced a levy on your and my electricity bill. It's called CCL, stands for Climate Change Levy, and it is still charged on your bills today. You probably missed that sneaky change. So governments are rolling around laughing. They're paying next to nothing. Gas-fired power station operators rolling about laughing. They're making an obscene profit not possible in a fair and free market. Renewable generators, they're rolling about laughing. They're selling their free electricity at ridiculous prices, making them a fortune. Now, before anyone jumps up and states that they need these high prices to give them sufficient money to be able to build more wind and PV farms or gas-powered generators, let me remind you, Tesco does not increase the price of food in its existing supermarkets to finance the building of the next new one, do they? Nor do Barratt Homes charge existing owners a levy for the next new estate about to be built. No! If the new housing estate or the new supermarket can make a standalone profit, then they simply borrow the money or seek independent investors. That's the way of capitalism. They don't need to charge anything to existing customers. Electricity operates exactly the opposite way. It operates as a monopoly. It seeks to keep electricity prices high to us, the customers, at the highest possible or acceptable level so that all concerned make a good profit. Wholesale prices of electricity are crashing, have been doing for several years. But this quarter, our price cap, this is the artificial price chosen by Ofgem, the one supposed to be looking after us, so that all make a good profit, has seen an increase. Back to peaker power plants and gas or coal-fired power stations. Technology is now beginning to affect or even upset the status quo. Yes, all countries need a variety of electricity sources, including fossil fuel, hydro, renewable, maybe nuclear. It is dangerous to rely on just one. And yes, previously the industry has relied on fossil fuels as they are readily available and reasonably quick to use. But they are not the only source anymore. In Australia, which regularly suffered major blackouts at peak times, they chose to install a revolutionary alternative. Grid-connected batteries linked to solar panels. They do have a lot of sun over there. These simply top up the batteries from free sunshine all day long and then release it for really quite short periods of time, often just an hour or so, when it is demanded and when it's peak time. Now, if you've ever used a torch, you already know that when you turn it on, torch lights up instantly. There's no delay, no warm-up or anything. Or if you have a circuit with multiple lights, you can turn them all on or off instantly, and they react instantly as well. And a grid-connected battery does the same. Again, in simple terms, if you switch the megapack on to add essential electricity into the grid at peak times, happens instantly. No warm-up, no preparation. Batteries just give instant power on demand. Guess what? The electricity they use to charge the batteries is the cheap stuff produced by the free sunshine. Should I say cheap? It should be free. But being peaker plant replacements, they get the peaker plant extortionate rates when needed. So guess which the grid operators choose when peaker plants are needed? Yep, with no subsidy offered, the grid chooses the cheapest. So guess who's rolling about laughing now? Well, the customers are, because they don't get blackouts anymore. And the grid is because the batteries are automatic, meaning less work. And the utilities, because they make a massive profit from all of this, using free electricity from solar at peak times, and charging the grid the higher prices. And the megapack suppliers are happy as well, because they make a profit on selling the packs, plus a profit on maintenance, plus I'm sure they get a cut of the savings. Guess who hates them? Oh, well, the coal industry for one, peaker plants for the other. Well, now coming back to the price of EV charging and the CPOs in the UK. Why do we not see them all offering overnight cheap rates? The cheaper electricity's there. Why are they pouring more money into adding additional charges and little or none into getting their prices down? See, the option is there. EV chargers operate very much like the grid itself. They will have peak times when the load is extreme, meaning probably queues, but they will also have quiet times when they are not being used. How much money is going into balancing that load? Drop overnight prices and you get more people charging out of peak hours. Eases the load, leaving chargers free for those who have less choice, those on road trips or commercial drivers who need to charge there and then. Was precious little of this appearing for us EV drivers that I see. Well, Tesla has a new project in Arizona. Their new planning application for a supercharger station includes the chargers, obviously, but also a solar PV farm and a megapack. Now, principle here is really simple. The EV chargers will almost certainly run directly off the megapacks, which will be able to power all the proposed chargers all the time. During quiet times, the batteries will also be charging. During busy times, they will be discharging, but at a slower rate because the PV panels will still be taking some of the load. As a fallback, if demand exceeds the supply from the megapacks and the solar combined, then they'll simply add in grid power. They just bring it in. These combined will be sufficiently powerful to charge all EVs at all the bays at all the time. But like a peaker plant, it will at times have far more power than it needs. Now here the variable commercial rates for electricity come into play. If there's an absolute excess of electricity in the grid and the batteries are not fully charged from the sun, say a cloudy day, they can just import some into the batteries at the cheaper rate, possibly on occasions free. Conversely, at peak times on the grid, provided they have sufficient power remaining to cover the demand from the chargers, they can sell any excess electricity back to the grid at higher rates, like a peaker plant. They therefore make money EV charging, selling that to the drivers, and they make money electricity trading, buying and selling from the grid. And this system is actually being built. So I ask our CPOs here in the UK, are any of you looking into this sort of system? Are any of you looking into reducing demand on the grid by offering megapack storage linked to a solar farm? Excluding Tesla, it is precious few. Have to give a shout out to GridSurf here for their charging station in Cornwall. It's the A30 services near Roach, which I visited recently. This does have PV panels on the roof and also grid connected batteries, but the chargers, the PV array and the batteries are all on a very, very small scale. So well done for having one. We need more. Is some of your £500 million investment fund going into more like this? And why is nobody else doing this? Well, if you are, by the way, let me know, because if you are, you're keeping it very quiet. But even on the rest of the charger network, why are most CPOs still charging a fixed price 24 hours a day when the wholesale price of electricity varies night and day? Why the drive for more and more chargers when the grid is being really so slow in reacting to the increasing demand? If all of your EV charging stations were not only charging stations, but also generating their own power from a solar, or more likely in the UK, a small wind farm, then the grid needs to be a little larger than it already is right now. EV charger locations can offer a smaller supply off the grid, making it cheaper installation. It's also quicker. Each self-powered EV charging stations could make a double profit. And buying far less from the grid would mean that the prices you would charge your EV customers could be dramatically reduced. Now that would drive far more business into yourselves. Well, as far as the government concerned, why do you persist in subsidising gas-powered generators and force the renewable generators to charge such a high price? You have proposed that we become a great British clean energy superpower. Does that include stopping subsidies to gas-powered generators? Does that include allowing renewable energy generators to sell us really cheap electricity without having to hike it up to ridiculous levels? Will you remove the CCL penalty on every single electricity bill in the UK and allow the renewable energy industry to operate in a free and fair open market? I'm on a mission now, and I'll be making my best effort this year to get the full answers to these questions direct from the horse's mouth. I'm going to be out on the road talking to people. I really look forward to the answers I'm going to get. I'm Dave. Well, if you have enjoyed this video, then please click the like button. And if you'd like to see more, obviously click subscribe and the notification bell. Each subscription makes such a huge difference to a small channel like this. Now, our videos are supported by our growing number of Patreon members. Without them, this channel would not be able to do as much as we do. For the price of just a cup of coffee, you get a full month of subscription and access to loads of extras, like videos that we don't launch on YouTube. We also post bloopers and outtakes. We have a chat line for members. They use that to ask me questions, and I do personal replies. Also, we occasionally advise you where and when we'll be filming next, so that interested members can turn up and actually buy me a cup of coffee. Yeah, probably also a donut or two. And only if you want, we can feature you and or your EV in a future video on the YouTube channel. I am always looking for real stories and reviews. I'm Dave.